Welcome to Pera's Playbook. This is your host, Alex Pera. Let's open up our playbook and see who our guest is. Please enjoy. Welcome to episode 110 of Pera's Playbook. Today I'm joined by Dan Manucci, former quarterback who went to Kansas State, and he also played for the Buffalo Bills in the NFL, the Toronto Argonauts in the CFL, and the Arizona Wranglers in the USFL. Dan, appreciate you hopping on the podcast. How are you?
It's a pleasure, Alex. Anytime I get a chance to talk about sports, football, Kansas State University, I'm always good to go. How about yourself?
I'm doing great. I feel the same way. I love all sports, but I like football more. You know, I like talking football. I like getting old football players on, guys who played in the NFL, college, the works, and hearing the stories and you know that's the fun stuff for me. I mean, other sports are exciting too, but there's just something about football that it excites me more.
I always tell people, football is truly, it's a way of life. What we do, we play football, starting at McClintock High School here in Tempe, Arizona, then going to Mesa Community College, where we won a national championship my freshman year, and then ended up third in the nation my second year, and then going to Kansas State University and playing there for 2 years, and then obviously getting drafted by the Buffalo Bills in the 5th round, playing pro ball for about 7 years. It's a way of life, and I think for so many people, it's you think of football day in and day out grind, perseverance, endurance. You got to get your butt out of bed. You got to work and work hard. You have goals. You have aspirations. And one thing that I always say is, if you get sacked as a former quarterback, I always say, if you get sacked, you got to get back up and call the next play. But don't call the next play unless you realize why you got sacked. And I think, as we distill a line from Hank Stram in the Super Bowl IV, when the Vikings lost to Kansas City Chiefs, Hank Stram told Len Dawson, the quarterback of the Chiefs, "Hey, Lenny, just keep matriculating down the field." Well, I think in the way of life, if we just keep matriculating down the field of life, one foot in front of the other, I think the ups and downs, you eventually get to your goal, or that particular goal line.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Sports, everything that happens in sports, such a great metaphor for life. You know, advice in sports, the ups and downs in sports, the things you learn when you're on teams and through winning and losing. I mean, it translates to life so well, and the experiences you have. I mean, that's one of the reasons I like doing the podcast, is because you can take anything you hear from somebody's story and you can apply it even if you're not a sports person necessarily.
And one thing, Alex, you said, part of a team, because you get into a corporation, team sports teaches you to sacrifice, to sometimes you may not like what your role is, but that sacrifice, that role is so important as far as you helping the team be successful. Going and working for Motorola for almost 8 years, I figured the same thing. CB Commercial Real Estate, I did commercial real estate, being part of a team. And I think team sports teach you that you've got to work together in order to attain your goal. I mean, the metaphors, as you mentioned, as a team, you win that game by everybody on the same page, all 11 guys on a football field being on the same page of a play. All 53 guys in the National Football League working hard to attain the one goal, to win the Super Bowl. So that team metaphor, team concept comes into play. And it's just got interesting, and I know a lot of your audience, a lot of the individual sport guys have a hard time capturing that, because they're so reliant on themselves that sometimes they get in a team business mode. They don't quite understand. They want to do it their way. But sometimes you got to be a good leader is also a good follower, and vice versa. So there's sometimes those roles change, and I think as being part of a team is what truly makes people successful.
Yeah, and especially like in a quarterback position. I mean, you're the leader of the offense, but you need the rest of the team to be successful. You need your wide receivers, your running backs, your O-line, your tight ends, your fullback. You need everybody. Otherwise, you're not going to have a good game either.
Well, you need the offensive lineman to have that good game, because I can't do anything with the ball if I got to drop back and there's nobody there. Now, to be fair, if the blitz is on or stunt packages are on by the linebackers or safeties, I got to check out or know where my hot routes are. Get rid of the football, understand my reads, so I can help all that out. And the quarterback is only as good as the sum of his parts. I don't care who you are. You look at the Matthew Staffords, look at the Kurt Warners, Joe Montanas, Pat Mahomes, Tom Brady's. I can go on and on and on. Think about those names of quarterbacks. They had a great number of teammates around them. Now, they didn't all have superstar players, except for Joe Montana had Jerry Rice. But you got to think those guys, those quarterbacks knew exactly what the play was, where they were going with the ball. Sometimes you got to take a sack. You just take the sack. And I'll never forget this. I learned this in Buffalo. Our very first meeting at my rookie minicamp, I just got drafted in the 5th round by the Bills. Our very first meeting, my minicamp, the rookie quarterbacks were there, and Chuck Knox was our head coach in Buffalo at the time. So we get into this meeting, and he's talking about first couple things were quarterback play. Number 1, take care of the ball. Number 2, take care of the ball. Number 3, take care of the ball. And number 4, metaphorically speaking, it's okay to punt. That you don't have to be a hero on every pass play or every play that you're in the game. And he wants, the moral of the story was secure the ball, take care of the ball. Don't give the ball up. Make sure you take care. We got a defense. We can punt it. And the moral of the story was he could not stand if you turned the football over. And if you threw the ball high across the middle and got tipped or picked, man, you had to go to the sideline and face Chuck Knox. You got to keep that ball down. But those are things that I think that when quarterbacks understand their actually, put it this way, when they can manage the game, doesn't mean they're not a good quarterback. They're managing the game down a distance, where to throw the ball. Should I take the sack? Should I get out of bounds? Should I throw the ball away? That's part of quarterbacking and managing a game and understanding what that role means to the rest of the team.
Yeah, young quarterbacks often panic, and then they throw it, and then like you get that pick six. Or I'm a Titans fan, so week 1 against the Bears when Will Levis was getting sacked, he threw that. Oh my gosh, oh terrible! A lot of upside for him. He's got a really strong arm. He's got a lot of potential, but that was a killer.
Then last week he had another gaffe. What are you doing with the ball? So when I see that, that means that's a young man that got away with a lot of that in high school, in college. You get the big boy ball or the National Football League, Alex.
It's not going to work.
It doesn't work. You can't be improvisational unless you understand where the ball's going. But those are, and you saw his coach rip him a new one as he's coming up to the side of Coach McDonald, basically getting in his grill. But you're right. He's a very talented young man. He's got to learn his lessons. He's got to understand what he can and can't do. But if you continue to do that, the National Football League starts not for long. So not that they'll give up on him, but you got to be understanding of what you can and can't do as a quarterback in the National Football League.
Right. There's only so much that. Well, you look at Carolina. They benched Bryce Young and they threw in Andy Dalton. They took that veteran presence. He came in. He had a great game. I'm a big Andy Dalton fan. I love seeing that. He's actually my favorite quarterback of all time. Probably my favorite player of all time. Love the red rifle. So I was excited.
Alex, if you had a little more red in your hair, you guys you might be his son or related. The red rifle, and what's interesting about that is I think they wanted to give Bryce Young a lot of rope to see how he progressed from year 1 to year 2. He's just not getting it for some reason. I don't know if it's coaching, but David Tepper, the owner of the Panthers, called that shot. Because when you saw Coach Canales say they asked him, "How was your meeting with Mr. Tepper?" Well, that's private. We'll keep it to ourselves. But we have a lot of confidence in Bryce Young. Blah 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 blah. My rear end, man. You knew that change was going to happen, and look what happened. They beat the Raiders in Las Vegas. He understands defenses. He manages the game well. He sees the field so much better. I really believe that Bryce Young is still. Let me describe what a rookie quarterback or young quarterback it's like. So can you imagine when you first got your learner's permit to drive your car? Remember that?
Yeah.
Okay. So just think the very first day. Now your dad might have let you drive around here and there. So just think of you getting your learner's permit and your dad saying, "Look, You got to go jump on the Santa Monica Freeway at rush hour at 75 miles an hour. You got to get all the way over to the ninth lane. And then you got to get off on the Santa Monica exit a mile later and make sure that you take a left at Rosewood Boulevard and make sure you pick up all the groceries. And in the meantime, fill up the car with gas and go get an oil filter and lube. You've got 2 hours to get that done. Okay, I'll see you back here. So when you think about that, you go, oh my gosh, that's so much. And that's what that's like as a rookie, as a quarterback. And I mean, I said rush hour, not regular hour. I said rush hour, bumper to bumper. That's the multitude of the rookie and even second year game for a lot of NFL quarterbacks out there.
Did you feel that? Like going from the college level to the NFL level, like just the intensity level is higher, like everything's higher?
It really is, because you got to remember, Alex, you're getting paid to do this, and there's other grown men relying on your performance to make sure they win, so they get paid. And your ultimate goal is to get to the Super Bowl or to make the playoffs. And if you're the guy that's in there, I don't care how many reps you've had or how many reps you didn't have, tag, you're it. You're expected to be a professional. Not so much the pressure, it's just the speed of the game, understanding of the game, and there's so much coming at you. A playbook as a rookie, as I can define it as learning the playbook in Chinese and then having to go relay it in Greek to another room, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
That's how intense, that's how mental the game is. The game as a quarterback, as a rookie or a National Football League, it's 90% mental for quarterback. The other 10% is you know how to throw the ball, you know where to place the ball. The 10% is sometimes the easy part unless you got guys all over you. But for me, as a rookie, I really felt that I had to learn quickly. And I did learn the plays and defenses. It just you have to play to feel the speed of that game. All of a sudden, if college is, say, you're playing in second gear, high school's first gear, college is maybe third gear, okay? So you go from third gear to the pros, which is now, if you can imagine, seventh gear. That's 4 more gears of speed, intensity, mentally thinking. I mean, it's bang, bang, bang right now, and you have to play. I don't care what anybody says. You have to play in order to become a good quarterback in a National Football League, in college and high school. There's nothing better than actual live reps. You can do all the mental reps you want, which is fine, but you've got to play to see how you react, how your body reacts, getting hit, putting the ball where it's supposed to be, and reacting to what the defense is doing for you. If I could paint a picture, it's going from third to seventh gear as far as the speed and difference.
Yeah, it's hard. You can't mimic those split-second decisions. You can practice all you want, but it's not going to be the same as when you're actually in the game and you've got some big 280-pound defensive end chasing you down, and now all of a sudden the receiver that you were going to throw it to is covered, and you've got to make that decision.
I'll give you an example of doing it. There was a study, this is years ago, where they had 2 guys shooting free throws. One guy shot without the basketball and went through the same exact motion, without the ball. The other guy did it with the ball. So they each did 100 free throws, whether they made them or not. So they brought them both back together. So now the guy that hadn't shot and wasn't shooting with the ball had a basketball. Okay, and then the guy that hadn't shooting with the basketball. So they did it. So the guy that hadn't shot it, he made 70 of 100 free throws. The guy that shot with the basketball made 90 of 100 free throws, which goes to show you don't have the physical way of doing something, the weight of the ball. You can imagine and see it in your mind's eye all day long. But until you actually do it, do you understand the concept of playing that position?
Yeah, definitely. So when you got to the league, did you have any players, any veterans that kind of took you under their wing and helped you get acclimated, or was it baptism by fire, kind of just like you're thrown into the ringer here?
No, I backed up Joe Ferguson. Joe would help once in a while. Joe was in his 8th year, my rookie year back in 1979. So Joe was a seasoned vet. The only help you get is from the quarterback coach, teaching the plays, understanding. Joe would chime in and say, hey, watch this, this, or this. But you got to remember, Alex, I'm there to take his job. I got drafted in the 5th round, and they're looking at me to say, hey, look, can this kid develop? And not that I'm going to take Joe's job because he's the quarterback. At least back him up, maybe down the road, 5-6 years when Joe's, old and decrepit at all of 35 years old, that I developed. But you got to remember, competition at that level is dog eat dog. And they're not going to help you much. The only help you're going to get from is your quarterback coach or offensive coordinator on understanding the plays, where to go with the ball. And I'd work extra with some of the receivers after practice, but it was always the second and third team receivers. First team guys, they've gotten their 2 hours of practice. They're not going to stay after and work with a rookie. And so the adjustment for me was just staying involved, staying active, staying sharp, getting extra reps. Because as a second or third, as a third string quarterback my first year, I was the holder and I ran the scout team. But I mean, you're not running with the actual plays of what we're doing. Second year, I backed up Joe Ferguson. I was the backup quarterback. So I got a chance to get, if we did 15 7-on-7 plays, I got 4. If we did, let's say we did 20, 22, 23, 11-on-11 plays during the week, I got 4. So at that point, after practice, I would grab whoever, go through a lot of the stuff I didn't get a chance to, and go through those plays. Let me give you an example. So in Brock Purdy's rookie year, who had a chance, and Brock, by the way, had a chance to train since 9th grade. So Brock made the team with the 49ers. Mm-hmm. So what he would do, because you had Trey Lance and Jimmy G were the quarterbacks. So what Brock would do is after the practice was over, he'd go grab, I believe, one or a couple of other guys and go back through the plays he didn't get a chance to run that were scripted by Kyle Shanahan. So when CMC got there, Christian McCaffrey got there, they threw him in the fire. After he got there on Wednesday, I believe, and he started on Sunday. But Brock was the one that went and worked with him and went through the entire script of the team script. I don't know if he did 7-on-7, but so he was getting the physical reps, the mental reps, but not just facing 11 guys. So he reinforced what he knew, the plays with Christian McCaffrey, and then himself, he'd go off the side on his own and deal with, get a couple of, other receivers and try to emulate the practice as much as he could, which was great. And I used to try to do that as well, to get some extra throwing in and try to make sure that I understood exactly what was going on.
Completely different from then when you're in college, when you're the guy, you're the starting quarterback, you're commanding the offense, you're in charge. Now you get drafted and you're taking, like you said, that third spot. You've got to do all this extra just to feel like you're.
That's hard to just, I didn't feel like I was hanging out. I'm like, I need to be practicing because I know me. I'm a repetitious guy. I'm a visual guy. I want to see it. And so running the scout team, making sure I got my running in, my lifting in, my extra throwing in, is you really have to stay self-motivated, just because if 2 quarterbacks go down in front of you, you got to be ready. You got to study the playbook. And so I always felt my rookie year is just stay active. Just keep working. Extra running, extra throwing, throw. And then my second year, when I backed up Joe Ferguson in Buffalo, 1980, it was always know the playbook inside and out, watch tape, make sure I stay on my workouts, get extra throwing. And because as a backup quarterback, Alex, you're all dressed up and know where to go if you don't play in the game, but they expect you to perform if you go in the game. And it's hard to perform if you're not getting reps during practice. It's like if you're a musician and you're part of Earth, Wind, and Fire. By the way, I love Earth, Wind, and Fire. And all of a sudden, they take the trombone, your trumpet away from you the whole week because the other, you're going to fill in for the trumpet guy. He gets sick. You haven't practiced all week. They expect you to come in here and not miss a note, not miss a beat. That's tough to do. By the way, just a little edification. Joe Walsh, outstanding guitar player for many, many years, part of the Eagles now. He practices an hour a day, every day, even when they have their concerts, to stay sharp. And he goes through, what do you call it, the index, whatever. That's why he's one of the greatest guitarists of all. But he's a classic example of staying ready, staying prepared. know your craft, and then when you go out there, it's second nature.
Right, and you have to, because if you stop doing it just for a little bit, I mean, a little bit of rust will accumulate. You don't do something for a little while, and it's like all of a sudden it's, well, hey, this isn't as easy as it was, and I just made this mistake, and then you throw it. If you're talking football, then you throw an interception, and your coach is hollering at you, and
Well, and I will say this: you said the mental mistakes. After my rookie year, I was more mentally exhausted than physically exhausted.
yeah,
Now you got to remember, in college we were only playing 11 games back then.
yeah,
So maybe you have 2 weeks of training camp, 11 games, and if you're not going to an all-star game or a bowl, you're done. So you got to think, okay, so your rookie year, you've got 6 weeks of training camp. The first week is rookies only, then the veterans, and then you've got 4 preseason games, and then you've got 16 regular season games. So I kind of hit the wall. I'd say physically, mentally, probably like game 12, because I'd already had 16 actual games plus another 2 weeks. So I've been like 18 weeks of camp in 11, 12 short weeks. So my second year, I was used to that. You had to pace myself, not slack off, but I mean, just I kind of, as far as my workouts, I mean, that first year when end of January came, I mean, I drove back from Buffalo to Manhattan, Kansas, because I finished my degree. I drove back, had my little U-Haul attached to my Grand Prix, and I got back there, got unpacked, got an apartment there. I could have slept a week. That's how mentally exhausted you are as a
yeah,
quarterback. Because you remember, Alex, you're studying morning, noon, and night every play. I mean, you might have one play. There's 4 or 5 options off that play with different pass routes. There might be 2 or 3 different options for pass blocking. There might be
yeah,
2 or 3 options of if they blitz or they stunt, where am I going with the ball? So let's just say I actually did this one time. I counted on a per play, per basis situation. You might have 30 to 35 different thoughts per play. So think about that. So by the time the end of the year is over, you're like, just, you're physically, you're okay. You might be banged up or beat up, don't get me wrong. But the mental piece of it is so demanding, and so you almost feel quasi-fried at that time.
it's the biggest part of sports that until recently, it wasn't talked about as much. It's talked about more now, being mentally ready, but it's the biggest side of sports. If you're not mentally ready, you can be in the best physical shape ever and it won't matter. You got to be
Well, you got to know
mentally
what you're
primed.
doing. You got to know what you're doing. You got to have options. You got to know the options. You have literally got to be that offensive coordinator in the huddle on the field. You got to be an extension, like Brock. He's an extension to Kyle Shanahan. Now, here's the other thing, too. Brock had a lot of reps at Iowa State. Remember that. He had 60-some games he played. So they like that because of the consistency, getting ready for a game, playing in a game. So you got 60-some games you played. You can mentally handle that. That's 4 years of football. It's a lot of football. But
Yeah.
they look at the mental piece, and that's what John Lynch, the general manager, loved about Brock. They were so surprised. I felt a little biased here, but he should have been like a 3rd or 4th round draft pick because of all the records he was breaking at Iowa State.
Yeah.
Just because he doesn't throw the ball 100 miles an hour doesn't mean he's an effective or outstanding quarterback. I mean,
Yeah.
I will say I've seen guys with $100 arms and $10 brains. I'm
Yeah.
telling you, they just couldn't get it. And they try to wait for the break or not make the read or force the throw. And they have no idea. Or they try to get away with it by not studying. And
Yep.
with Brock Purdy, Brock was bright. He's smart. He understands it. Tyler Shuck, another one of my quarterbacks I've trained since 9th grade. He's a quarterback at Louisville right now. By the way, big game with Notre Dame coming up with South Bend.
I'm a
He was the same
huge,
way.
huge Notre Dame fan. Got my little
Oh,
leprechaun
man.
right here. Huge Notre Dame fan.
Yeah, that's too bad. There's therapy for that, Alex. There's therapy for that. But I mean, he's another guy. He's smart. He's bright. And a lot of guys I've trained over the years, I've been doing this for over 40 years, in the last 20 on a consistent basis, along with the radio show, is that they're really dialed in. They're mentally dialed in. The guys I see that make it, Bryce Perkins, Super Bowl ring with the LA Rams. backed
Hmm.
up Matthew Stafford and Wolford. Um, Chuba Purdy's now at Nevada. Trained Chuba since eighth grade. Brock Purdy, Tyler Shuck, Ty Thompson backing up the guy at Tulane right now. Dalton Sneed, Arena Football League champion. I've been training him since eighth grade. All the guys that have made it to either NAIA or Division One or either SBS or FCS have been totally dialed in, not only to the workout, but they've either been honor students or high GPA guys that have the intensity, they've got the flexibility, but they really have the acumen of thank you, sir, may I have another. There's still a line from Oliver Twist, right? Great book, great movie. Thank you, sir, may I have another. That was kind of their attitude as to getting better or being the best they possibly could. And as a quarterback in the National Football League, the mental piece is everything. And to get that down, you got to go through it.
I think this is all great advice. Some young quarterback is listening to this right now. All the names you're rattling off, a lot of them are guys that most young kids are going to know. And when they, really understand what it takes to succeed, I feel like, kids just look at it like, oh, I gotta work on my arm. I gotta get strong. I gotta throw, and
Sure.
like that's all that's important. But if they hear some of this advice, I think it definitely could help
Well,
them
I
out.
always tell young quarterbacks, learn your playbook, learn your playbook, learn your playbook. Know what you're good at, know what you got to work on. I always tell guys, after every quarterback workout, I gather the guys and I say, okay, we're going to basically talk about what you did good or what you need to work on. I never say not what you did bad. I want you to articulate in reference to me as to what things went with, right? And so I call it, let's evaluate and articulate what you did good in the workout or what you want to work on. I never say what you did bad. And so they'll know when they repeat back to me what they need to work on or what they did really good at, then they have an understanding what they got to work on during the week until they see me the next weekend. And I'm different because I tell people that I said, look, we don't hang out, we work out. When you come into the lab, it's not recess. We're working. And
Yeah.
I'm going to play a lot of brainiacs with them, Alex. I'm going to throw some mental stuff at them that they got to perform on the run. They got to think while they're performing, make an accurate throw. So they get used to that kind of pressure and impromptu scenarios so that when they come back and they come into a scenario where oh my God, that they're familiar with that. I want to make them comfortable in uncomfortable situations, but you got to practice that. It's like I
Yeah.
tell anybody. I remember watching Jake Plummer at Arizona State University. Jake is an outstanding quarterback, always has been. But Jake used to take a lot of sacks, or he would he'd run and get sacked. And I used to tell Bruce Snyder, God rest his soul, when he was coaching Jake at Arizona State University, you guys should practice throwing the football away. Practice it. If it's not there, throw it away. Don't be prideful of the football. This will keep you out of bad situations. But a lot of guys don't do that. If I'm coaching a team, I'm like, if it ain't there, throw it away. If you run, get out of bounds. Or, you know what? It's okay to take the sack. Because what I say earlier, it's okay to punt. So don't force a
Hmm.
bad situation if it's in front of you.
Yeah. I totally agree. It's all good advice. And I'm sure we could talk for a lot longer, but I know you got to go here. So I want to end real quick. I always end every episode on music because I'm a big music guy. And you were talking a few bands earlier. So I like to get like one music suggestion out of every guest. Something. So, kind of what's your favorite group? I know that's hard to pick.
Well, I've got several, but I will leave you with this because it is the month of September, right? So
Yeah.
Earth, Wind, and Fire, September, one of my favorites. That and Boogie Wonderland,
Yep.
Doobie Brothers, China Grove, REO Speedwagon, Keep on Changing, the
Yeah.
Eagles, any song on the Border album.
Yeah.
I think of Steely Dan. I mean, I can go back to James Gang, the Grand Funk Railroad.
Yeah.
There are so many, and then there's one you might be surprised. I'm a contemporary jazz guy as well too, and I love the sax of Richard Elliott, and then one of the greatest, I'd say, acoustic guitar players named Craig Chiquiso, and some of his stuff in the mid '90s, late '90s was great stuff. So what I'm trying to give you, Alex, is some culture to add to
Yeah.
your repertoire
Oh yeah. No, I'm all
music.
into all that stuff. I love that stuff. I with my parents, we've been going to a lot of classic rock concerts. In the last few years, I've seen 38 Special, Loverboy, all these different groups. We're going to see Night Ranger in a few weeks here. I'm big into that. And right now, I don't know, I've been listening to a lot of like Gordon Lightfoot, Jim Croce, good fall
Sure.
mood stuff. Love Jim
Oh man.
Croce.
I'd say also listen to the Chicago's got great
Oh,
albums as well.
yes, love Chicago.
Chicago and Bon Jovi and those guys, but also the guys in the '70s and '80s, I
Yeah,
really could appreciate. But you think of, I think, matter of fact, we just we were going to go see Aerosmith his last tour,
yeah,
Stephen Perry, but he lost his voice literally. He
yep,
just can't sing anymore. Uh, but we see there, and anytime Earth, Wind, and Fire, or Doobie Brothers, or Chicago, or REO Speedwagon, or you
yeah,
guys are in town, it takes me back to those good old McClintock High School days there in Tempe, Arizona. Going back, and I'll tell you that Led Zeppelin early albums. I mean,
yeah,
those albums are all great as well too. So I am a music buff. Matter of fact, I'll sit here when I get ready for our radio show. By the way, go to rockandmanucci.com, rockandmanucci.com. Tune into our show we have on daily. It's an over-the-air radio show on Fox Sports 910. And we are on daily sports talk radio. We've been doing it for 20 years. We've been doing sports talk radio. So
yeah,
I'll put the hits on, the music on. Peter Gabriel,
yeah,
Steve
yeah.
Winwood. Oh, man, you got me
Good
going now,
stuff.
Alex. I'll be spinning the tunes tonight.
Yeah, and just to show where my music range is, this summer I saw Barry Manilow with my
Oh,
mom.
wow.
Yep, he was doing
Because,
one. He's
and now it's okay because you won't lose your man card. You won't. You won't lose your man. By the
oh
way, let me leave you with the saying. I mean, I was always, the one thing about Buffalo is Chuck Knox had sayings all in the locker room, and one of the sayings that I want to leave your guests with that really is apropos to life is that fame is but a vapor, but character is ever enduring. Fame is but a vapor, character is ever enduring, and what you do speaks volumes of who you are. You ain't got
yeah.
to say it, but what you do speaks volumes of who you are. Now, Alex, if I'm getting a little too deep for you, just let me know here, and I'll back
No,
off.
that's good stuff. That's good stuff. Dan, I appreciate you hopping on the podcast. You had a great time.
Alex, my pleasure anytime, and all the those folks that listen to you, keep up the great work. And as I always like to say, couple things: no slackening, don't be slacking and Cadillacing, and you got to keep on keeping on.
There you go, everybody. Thanks for listening. Please stay tuned for more episodes soon.